As we move through life, particularly, well, after 50, it sometimes feels like we're navigating a river, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and the current feels stronger somehow.
Mm.
There's just so much that feels like it's flowing past us or maybe around us. Technology shifts, societal changes, even our own expectations, they keep evolving. It can feel like quite a lot to absorb.
Indeed. It's as if the river, having carved a significant path already, now encounters these new landscapes. It requires a different kind of navigation, perhaps.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we really wanted to explore that very idea. How do we find a sense of harmony, balance in this later stage of life?
Mm-hmm.
We've been looking at some really fascinating perspectives rooted in Buddhist philosophy, actually. They offer a way to approach this journey with maybe more understanding and perhaps a bit more ease.
Right.
It feels less about quick fixes and more about a fundamental shift in how we see things.
Precisely. Our intention here is to sort of draw out the essence of these principles, not as abstract theories, but as, well, practical wisdom that you can actually weave into the fabric of your daily experience.
Let's start with that image, the river, because it really struck a chord for me. This constant, unstoppable flow of time and all the experiences it carries. One of the pieces you shared mentioned this relentless movement.
The river is a powerful teacher, isn't it? Each ripple, as your sources so beautifully put it, carries echoes of moments past.
Yeah.
For many people, especially as they journey through these later years, that sheer momentum can feel, well, overwhelming, like being swept along sometimes.
It's not just the feeling that time is passing more quickly, though, is it? It's everything that comes with it, how fast technology evolves, the shifts in our relationships, even the changing roles we play. It can feel like trying to find solid ground when everything around you is just moving.
And this sense of being influenced by forces outside ourselves, that's a central part of this experience. And this is where the Buddhist understanding of Prapichasamutpada, it's often translated as dependent origination, offers a really insightful way to look at things.
Dependent origination. Okay, that sounds like a term that could get a bit complicated. Can we break that down simply?
Well, at its heart, it really just speaks to the interconnectedness of all existence.
Okay.
Nothing arises in isolation. Every event, every action, every thought is intricately linked. Part of this vast network of causes and conditions, think of it like the currents within that river, each one influences the others, right?
Right.
And the river itself is just the culmination of all those flows together.
I think I see. So when things around us are changing rapidly, it's not something just happening to us in isolation, but something we are inherently a part of. One of the articles you shared really emphasized that sense of being embedded within the larger flow.
Precisely. You're not separate from these changes. You are woven into the very fabric of them. And recognizing this interconnectedness, it can shift that feeling from being overwhelmed by external forces to a sense of being an active participant within a larger unfolding.
That's a really profound shift in perspective, actually. It makes me think of like a tree in a storm. It bends with the wind, right? It adapts to the force rather than rigidly resisting it. It keeps its roots, but still yields to the movement.
The sources highlighted this resilience beautifully. There was that story of Hiroshi, the retired teacher in Kyoto.
Oh, yes.
He felt this growing distance from his grandchildren, their lives so immersed in technology, so different from his more traditional upbringing.
Yes, that feeling of being left behind, of the world moving at a pace you can no longer quite match. I can imagine that's a very common experience. Your notes echo that sentiment too.
And Hiroshi's experience, it beautifully illustrates how adapting doesn't mean abandoning your core self or, the wisdom you've accumulated. His sharing calligraphy with his grandchildren wasn't about imposing the past onto the present.
Right.
It was about discovering a shared space, a mindful connection that actually transcended the generational divide and the technological differences.
And it turned that initial frustration and disconnect into a point of connection. That's such a key takeaway, isn't it? It wasn't about resisting the new, but finding a bridge, using something familiar and meaningful.
Precisely. Harmony, in this context, it isn't about trying to halt the river of time or pretending the powerful currents of change don't exist. It's about cultivating the skill to navigate them with intention, drawing upon that deep wellspring of wisdom that you yourself possess.
That treasure trove of wisdom, I like that phrase. It's so easy to overlook just how much experience and insight we actually gather over the years. One of the research pieces you shared talked about the value of this lived experience in navigating later life.
Indeed. And that wisdom, when you couple it with a deliberate engagement with the present moment, becomes an invaluable compass. Your notes also emphasize the importance of staying grounded.
Hmm.
The sources we looked at really underscore the power of presence, consciously anchoring yourself in the here and now. That's a vital strategy for navigating the complexities of modern life with, well, a sense of grace and equilibrium.
So it's about being mindfully present within the flow, rather than feeling like you're being tossed around by it. That resonates deeply.
Mm.
Now, another significant aspect of change, particularly as we age, is often that fear of loss, isn't it? The feeling of maybe not being as relevant or capable as we once were.
This fear is a natural human response, of course. Attachment to past roles, to ways of being that are shifting, that can understandably create a sense of unease. And this is where the Buddhist concept of shunyata, often translated as emptiness, offers a surprisingly liberating perspective.
Emptiness.
Hmm.
Okay, that word can sometimes carry a negative connotation, can it? Suggesting a lack or a void.
Well, in this context, shunyata doesn't signify some kind of nihilistic void or an absence of meaning. Not at all.
Okay.
Rather, it points to the inherent lack of a fixed, independent, and unchanging self or reality. Everything is in a state of constant flux, interconnected, interdependent. Seeing reality through this lens helps us to loosen our rigid grip on how we think things should be. One of the articles you shared touched on this fluidity.
So it's about recognizing that things, including ourselves and our circumstances, they aren't inherently solid or permanent. And that, in turn, allows us to be more adaptable and resilient when changes inevitably happen.
Exactly. It's a bit like the analogy of gently holding a cup of tea.
Hmm.
If you grasp it too tightly, you create tension, you risk spilling it.
Yeah.
But if you hold it with a relaxed awareness of its warmth, its fragility, you can fully appreciate the tea without that strain. Our relationship with change can be approached with a similar mindful ease.
That's a very helpful analogy. A gentle acceptance rather than that tense resistance.
And the sources provided some really compelling real-world examples of this gentle adaptation. Remember the grandmother embracing video calls to stay close with her granddaughter living far away?
Yes, I do.
Or the individual who channeled his lifelong passion into starting a woodworking blog in retirement. These are instances where technology, often seen as a barrier, actually becomes a tool for connection and renewed purpose.
And it's so important to view technology as a potential ally, isn't it?
Hmm.
Rather than some insurmountable obstacle, especially when it comes to staying connected with loved ones, engaging with the world. Your research highlighted some fascinating ways seniors are using tech to enhance their lives.
Absolutely. And as the research you provided indicated, psychological studies actually suggest that engaging with new experiences, including technological ones, can have significant benefits for maintaining cognitive function and promoting overall well-being as we age.
Right.
Lifelong learning isn't just some abstract ideal, it's a vital component of staying vibrant and engaged.
It really underscores that the journey of learning and growth doesn't have a fixed endpoint. And I was particularly drawn to that quote from the Buddha that one of your sources included. There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. It completely reframes how we think about our aspirations, doesn't it?
It does indeed. It emphasizes that the present moment, our active engagement with life and its unfolding changes, that's where true fulfillment resides. And even amidst the inevitable currents of change, the sources we explored also highlighted the significance of rituals.
Rituals. You mean like those familiar routines or practices that provide a sense of grounding, stability in our daily lives?
Precisely. Whether it's a formal spiritual practice like meditation or a simple daily habit like tending to a beloved garden, rituals serve as anchors in a world that often feels like it's in constant motion. They connect us to our personal histories, to our core values, and they offer a sense of continuity even as external circumstances evolve. The example of the retired doctor incorporating mindful breathing into his daily routine, as mentioned in one of the articles, is a perfect illustration of this.
So it's about honoring both that natural flow of change and those consistent practices that provide a sense of inner stability, that dynamic interplay between continuity and transformation.
Exactly. Harmony isn't about rigidly clinging to the past or blindly rushing towards the future. It's about finding that dynamic equilibrium between the two.
Now, shifting from this deeper understanding of change and impermanence, how do we actively integrate these insights? How do we bridge that gap between, intellectual understanding and lived experience?
Well, the sources offered a particularly poignant story that illustrates this transition beautifully. Margaret, the retired librarian who discovered a passion for painting.
Ah, smart.
Her initial feeling of being too old to embark on something new, that's a sentiment I imagine resonates with many listeners. Your notes certainly touched upon this feeling of perceived limitations.
Absolutely. That feeling that certain chapters have closed and maybe new beginnings are just out of reach.
But her realization, sparked by that deeper understanding of impermanence, the insight that every ending is also a beginning, it ignited this new and fulfilling chapter in her life. Her painting wasn't just a pastime. It became a profound way for her to reconnect with the world and express her unique perspective, honed by years of experience.
And it beautifully illustrates that aging isn't necessarily a process of decline, but as one of the sources eloquently put it, a form of ascent. That with the passage of time comes a different kind of wisdom and clarity.
Precisely. The distractions and demands of earlier life often begin to recede, allowing for a greater focus on what truly nourishes the soul. This leads us naturally to the Buddhist principle of the middle way,
The middle way.
which isn't solely about navigating change, but about finding balance in all facets of our existence, including that interplay between tradition and modernity.
Finding that balanced path. So, neither clinging rigidly to outdated ways, nor blindly embracing every fleeting trend. One of the articles you shared discussed this delicate balance, especially in our rapidly changing world.
Exactly. It's about thoughtfully discerning what truly resonates with our values and integrating it mindfully. Mindfulness meditation, as several of your sources highlighted, serves as a remarkable bridge between ancient wisdom and contemporary life.
Right.
It has these deep historical roots, yet it offers such tangible benefits for stress reduction, enhanced focus, and emotional regulation in today's fast-paced world.
And it's such an accessible practice too. Even just dedicating a few moments each morning to mindful breathing, like one of your notes suggested, that can create a significant shift in perspective and inner calm.
It cultivates that essential moment of sacred pause, doesn't it? A space to center ourselves before engaging with the demands and stimuli of the day. This naturally leads us to another significant Buddhist teaching. Right, livelihood.
Right, livelihood. Okay, in the context of later life and maybe retirement, that concept might take on a different meaning than in our earlier working years, I imagine.
Indeed. While formal employment may conclude, the inherent human desire for purpose, for contribution, for meaningful engagement often remains strong. Retirement becomes this opportune time to redefine what livelihood means to you, to explore new avenues for using your skills, your passions, your accumulated wisdom in ways that bring both personal fulfillment and benefit to others. The story of Mr. Tanaka, the retired engineer who mentored students, that perfectly exemplifies this evolving sense of purpose. That was a powerful example.
He found a new way to apply his expertise and experience, not just for personal gain, but to inspire and guide the next generation. That sense of giving back, of sharing one's accumulated knowledge, seems so profoundly important in this phase of life.
It is. It underscores that our value and contribution don't diminish with retirement. They often undergo a beautiful transformation. Sharing our lived experience, our hard-earned wisdom, becomes a potent form of right livelihood in these later years.
This idea of establishing anchors through rituals is so, well, comforting. In a world that can often feel chaotic, unpredictable, those familiar practices can provide a real sense of stability and reassurance.
Absolutely. As the sources we've been exploring explain so eloquently, rituals, whether they're deeply ingrained cultural traditions like tea ceremonies or just the simple personalized rhythms of our daily routines, they serve as potent reminders. Reminders of both impermanence and our interconnectedness. They ground us firmly in the present moment.
And it's not just about those grand formal rituals, is it? It's also about those seemingly ordinary moments, like you mentioned, preparing a simple meal with care or tending to plants. Those can become deeply mindful and meaningful practices.
Precisely. These everyday activities can be infused with extraordinary significance when we approach them with intention and presence. And one of your notes suggested a particularly valuable practice, keeping a gratitude journal.
Oh, I love that idea. Consciously taking the time each day to acknowledge and maybe jot down the things we're thankful for, it really has a remarkable way of shifting our focus, cultivating a more positive outlook.
It does indeed. And from a Buddhist perspective, it aligns beautifully with the principle of dana, the cultivation of generosity of spirit.
Yeah.
By consciously focusing on what we already possess and appreciate, we open ourselves more fully to both giving and receiving with an open heart. One of the articles also mentioned walking meditation as another accessible and grounding ritual.
Combining that mindful awareness of meditation with the gentle movement of walking, that sounds like a wonderful way to connect with both your inner landscape and your physical surroundings.
It is. It anchors you in the present moment, fostering a deeper connection with nature and the simple act of movement. And interestingly, even technology, which can sometimes feel like it isolates us, can actually be intentionally used to enhance these rituals.
Like meditation apps or virtual communities centered around shared practices. It's about being mindful in how we integrate those tools, I suppose.
Exactly. It's about thoughtfully finding ways to weave technology into your spiritual journey rather than letting it become another source of distraction or overwhelm. Which brings us to the profound concept of the ripple effect of inner harmony.
The ripple effect. The understanding of how our own inner state, our actions, can have these far-reaching consequences in the world around us.
The Buddhist metaphor of Indra's net beautifully illustrates this interconnectedness. Imagine a vast net of jewels, each one reflecting the light of all the others.
Wow.
When we cultivate inner peace and harmony within ourselves, that light naturally radiates outward, influencing the world around us in ways we may not even fully comprehend.
So our own personal well-being isn't just an individual pursuit. It has this much wider impact on the interconnected web of life.
Precisely. The story of Mrs. Chen and her small book club, which you shared with me, perfectly exemplifies this.
Oh, yes.
What began as her personal desire for connection and intellectual stimulation blossomed into this vibrant, supportive community, creating countless ripples of positivity in the lives of its members.
It truly shows how even seemingly small, consistent actions can have such a profound and far-reaching effect. And I was so struck by that Dalai Lama quote one of your sources included. If you think you were too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito.
It's a wonderfully concise reminder, isn't it? That even the smallest actions can indeed create a significant reaction. And the sources we've explored offer 3 very practical suggestions for consciously harnessing this power. Actively choosing to be a mentor to others, practicing the art of compassionate listening, really listening, and intentionally engaging in acts of kindness, both big and small.
All of which are accessible to each and every one of us, right?
Right.
Regardless of our current circumstances or stage of life.
Exactly. It's about living with intention, with integrity. Becoming, as one source beautifully described it, a beacon of hope and inspiration simply through the way we navigate our own lives.
This idea of intentionally blending the wisdom we've gained with purposeful action in our later years is so compelling. It's not just reflecting on the past, but actively shaping our present and future with conscious awareness.
Think of it as standing on the summit of a mountain at dawn, as one source poetically described. You carry the wisdom, the insights of the night behind you, and the vast possibilities of a new day stretch out before you. In this stage of life, you become both the wise conductor and the experienced musician in the ongoing symphony of your own existence.
And at the very heart of that symphony is this fundamental Buddhist principle of interdependence, the understanding that we are all inextricably connected.
Yes. Your actions, your thoughts, your very being sends ripples outward into the world. And you are never too late, never too old, to contribute your unique melody to the collective harmony of humanity. Which brings us to those 3 essential pillars of action that the sources outline for cultivating harmony in later life.
Let's delve into those more specifically. The first pillar is that crucial practice of cultivating inner peace through mindful living.
This is truly the foundation, the bedrock upon which everything else rests. Without a degree of inner peace, it becomes incredibly challenging to navigate the external world with any sense of equilibrium. That analogy of a turbulent lake versus a calm one, it's so fitting.
Right.
Mindfulness serves as that gentle breeze that helps to settle the often disturbed waters of our minds.
And it's not just some lofty, unattainable ideal, is it? The sources provide very practical, accessible ways to integrate mindfulness. Starting the day with a few moments of quiet reflection, practicing mindful eating by really engaging our senses, ending the day with a practice of gratitude.
These small, consistent practices, when woven into the fabric of our daily routine, they can have a profound cumulative impact over time, gradually training the mind to be more present, less reactive, more attuned to the subtle beauty and wisdom of each moment. As Carl Jung wisely noted, making the unconscious conscious is key to directing our own lives.
The second vital pillar, then, is actively building bridges with others through generosity and compassion.
Dana, That selfless act of giving lies at the very heart of this pillar. And it's important to remember, this generosity extends far beyond material possessions.
Right.
It encompasses the gift of our time, our focused attention, and sharing our accumulated wisdom and experience.
Offering a listening ear to someone in need, volunteering our skills for a cause we believe in, consciously practicing active listening in our conversations, these are all powerful, tangible ways to embody generosity.
Absolutely, and compassion, that deep recognition of the inherent suffering that exists and the sincere desire to alleviate it in ourselves and others, that's the heart that fuels these acts of generosity. Consciously choosing love and understanding over judgment creates a more harmonious world, starting right here in our immediate circles.
And finally, the third essential pillar, embracing the spirit of lifelong learning and continuous growth.
Countering that pervasive myth that learning and personal development just stop at a certain age is so crucial. Later life presents unique, often unexpected opportunities for exploration, for rediscovering dormant passions, even for complete reinvention sometimes. The Buddhist principle of virya, continuous effort or enthusiastic perseverance, is particularly relevant here.
That inspiring story of Maria, who decided to take up photography in her later years, is such a powerful reminder that the capacity for growth, for discovering new passions, truly knows no age limit.
Exactly. Setting small, achievable micro goals, actively seeking out communities of like-minded individuals, consciously celebrating the progress we make, no matter how small it seems, these are all effective strategies for cultivating that essential mindset of lifelong learning, keeping the flame of curiosity and engagement burning brightly. As we bring this deep dive to a gentle close, let us return once more to that evocative image of the river of life. Remember, dear listener, you are not merely being carried along by the currents. You possess the inherent capacity to be an active and mindful navigator. You have the potential to steer your course with wisdom and even influence the flow in subtle yet meaningful ways.
And true, lasting happiness, the kind that emanates from that deep inner wellspring, it arises from consciously cultivating those essential inner virtues: peace, generosity, wisdom. Together, they form the strong, enduring foundation for a truly harmonious and fulfilling life.
And that inner harmony, like the light of a single jewel in Indra's net, it radiates outward, making you, in your own unique way, a beacon of light, of resilience, and of quiet strength for those around you.
So, as you continue your life's journey, perhaps I can invite you to reflect on this. What is the essence of the legacy you wish to leave behind? How will you consciously choose to use the remaining chapters of your life to create your own unique ripples of positivity, of wisdom, and of meaningful change in the world?
Remember, the path toward harmony isn't a fixed destination to be reached. It's more like an ongoing, evolving dance, a continuous and beautiful song, a rich and complex symphony that you are actively composing with each breath, with each intention, and with each mindful step you take.
Until our next deep dive.